Hi, this is the Social Gelo with Angelo show. My name's Angelo. I'm a social scientist, surfer, martial artist, and a whole lot of other things. Coming to you live from Kasai City, Japan, the Social Gelo with Angelo show.
So, for this episode, I'm interviewing Onel Bonilla. Thank you very much for listening to Social Gelo with Angelo. Onel is a black belt in Kajukenbo, third degree. I might have that wrong. Just to make sure, I'm going to say he's a black belt in Kajukenbo. And he shares a great story about growing up in Puerto Rico and earning his black belt and everything else in between. I hope you enjoy the show.
You gotta represent. And don't just stand there with your hands.
Hey, what's up, everyone? Thank you so much for checking out Social Gelo with Angelo. As you saw in the intro, I'm here with Bonilla, and I'm so bad with names. I saw your name on Facebook, and it said Onel. Onel?
Yeah.
Is that right?
Yes, it's Onel. Yeah,
Okay.
you said good.
I'm here with Onel Bonilla, and he is a black belt in Kajukenbo, as I said earlier in the intro, and he's here to share his Kajukenbo story and how he got into martial arts. So to open all this up, Onel, how did you get started in martial arts? Where did you start? You're obviously in Puerto Rico, but how did all this get started? Why did you start training in martial arts? Why?
It wasn't an option, because when I born, my father was already a practitioner. Not precisely in Kajukenbo, but he has links to Kajukenbo people, and he was a karate guy, and he was a very strong person and very strong athlete. And I grew up seeing he came from work, and at the past an hour or something, somebody came with a gi or something, and it was like fighting rules or practice. And it was weird because you start growing up and you see those kind of stuff and you don't understand it. Then your father says, okay, come and play. And the play was very, very rude, start kicking, start sparring, start doing stuff. And so he put me very little at the age of 4 or 5. He started those games. Then the thing was very interesting because I was living on a zone that was a little danger, some danger, a lot of drug points, a hard zone. So I have to walk to the school, the elementary school, and I have to pass all that stuff. And my father wanted me to be prepared because he always said, you're gonna be a confrontation and not with a good person. You have to be prepared. So my first years in training were with him. Then I remember in elementary school having a trouble with a dude. In those times, if you don't pass the grade, they let you in the grade. So I was in sixth grade, and the dude that I was facing was 18 years old, and he's still on sixth grade. So he won my lunch, and I always have been like a rush temperament, and I said, no, it's mine. He took it, and I kicked his balls. Sorry for the word, his groin.
You can say balls, man. You can say fuck. You can say shit. It is a completely uncensored podcast. So whatever happens, man. Yeah. Tú puedes decir que se joda. No big deal.
Esa buena. So in that moment, he gets like pissed off because a little kid just seeing him stupid. So he waits until the midday and every kids go to the like a baseball park near the school to play baseball. He wait until I get there, and when I was facing a group of persons, he put a knife on my throat, and it was funny because I remember it like it was today. I felt the cold from the blade here, and immediately it do the same grapple skills that my father was teaching. I put the hand and throw him in a judo, break his ribs, and start punching until the other guys came. When a teacher came, saw the weapon, get like, oh my god.
And then one more thing, I don't want to interrupt you, but again, how old was that guy? How old was that guy? One more time.
18 years. He was already almost a grown man. But in those times, you stay in the grade that you pass. If you don't pass, you stay there.
Yeah, and then how old?
It was
how old-
normal.
And how old were you?
I was in sixth grade. Imagine.
Okay, so you're like
Hey,
13,
hey.
13? 13?
No. Six. It was sixth grade.
Sixth grade. So how old were you? Probably like 12.
No, not almost 12.
Yeah.
We passed to 12 to the mid school then here in
Like-
the island. So
people
I was a little kid yet.
Yeah,
You
and
know.
like people talk about like people on the internet. They talk about the streets, right? And you like, man, we're Puerto Rican, right? So I was lucky enough to be born in California, but my dad left Puerto Rico because of the kind of violence you're talking about, right? Like 18, that guy was 18, and you were 12 or 13. And he put a knife to your throat, and you had to learn how to defend yourself. Like you did what your dad taught you. And obviously, you were saying earlier in your story about how there was a lot of drugs, there was a lot of violence, there was a lot of gangs, right? A lot of gangs, a lot of drugs, a lot of violence. So obviously, you had to live a life that stayed away from all that shit. And then you ended up in a position where someone who is involved in all that shit puts a knife to your throat. Like people talk about the streets. And one thing I want to make really clear for my listeners and for people watching this on YouTube is that if you go to a place like, I was lucky enough to be brought up in California, and my dad came from Puerto Rico. But at the same time, he came to Puerto Rico and California, and the place I ended up living in was very similar to the place that you're in, with people pulling knives on you when you're about 12 or 13. That's kind of typical.
It was less. 13, you passed to seventh grade.
Yeah.
So it was like 10 or 9 years old.
Yeah. So that happened. You took care of it. You did what your dad taught you to do. You defended.
Yeah, but in that moment, my dad gets like, shit is getting seriously here. So he grabbed me and said, "No, you're gonna train with another master now." And I remember he travels with me to the same town, to Aguada, but to the town per se. We live near the beach, so we go to the town, and he entered to this dojo. And it was funny because I see an old man, or not an old man, now he's old. He introduced me to Ortega's father, Sherry Ortega. And he said, "You're gonna train here." She is the teacher. There was Zoraida Patiño, as I told you, and he is her teacher and my friend. And I started training over there. And for my surprise, from my neighborhood, there was a lot of Kajukenbos there, and I didn't knew it. You know, she started accepting all the guys from there, and it was awesome times. Why? Because we learned so much And in those moments, in those times, line time, seeing a woman with a black belt and giving classes was weird. Was weird. And seeing a whole bunch, 30, 40 guys on a class, respect like hell that women, it was impressed the first day. Say, something has happened here. Oh, their fees were really good, and the classes were, oh my God, almost military, you know. Um, but at the same time, she got the quality person, the quality of a master that touch your heart and give you love at the same time. You know, she took people from over there that was not the best people in the world. Today, those people are professionals, and you talk to them and say, it's thanks to Sifu Patiño that opened my mind, give me the love that I need, the respect that I need, the guidance that I need to took me off the streets. And same way in my way, you know, everybody that knows me, he's a good man, but it depends who you talk. Some will tell you he was a devil in the past because you grew up in a place that you are not expecting nothing good from no one. You go like, and then now the place is better, but in those times, um, it was hard. And talking about the classes in the nights over there with Patino and Ortega, we were blessed also. And I will put this part because I see interview with Grandmaster Nathaniel Ortega, and some people question Nathaniel's rank per time, per time grades, and this is an interesting topic, you know, because I do believe, and at the same time, I don't believe in the time grades. Time grades are suggested, and now people wanted to do it, you know, like it's obligatory, mandatory. You stay in that rank all this long. In that time, it was known as PRKA, Puerto Rico Kajukenbo Association. And the method that we used at that time, it wasn't Emperado, it wasn't original, it was Ortega's method, old system, it was called. Very military system, very roots system. And not only for that, we got from advisors over there the best martial arts in the moment for that association, and not only advising. Every year I remember 1, 2, 3 seminars, Bushidos, that we got people like Mike Yon, we got people like Hanshipal Yamaguchi, Grandmaster Ming Lung, um, Jaime Vasquez, Professor George Jackson went over there. I got photos with them, very little, when I was more little because I still little. I'm a petite frame. So when you got people like Grandmaster Minglung give you classes at least for 4 6 hours, 3 times in a way, it depends on the perspective of the person and the mentality, what it could absorb. But you were absorb a person that was a mentor from Bruce Lee to Minlum. You look from the history. Unfortunately, he has to die, but was a person very, very special and very spiritual at the same time. You got a person like Hanshipal Yamaguchi also. I could tell you, seeing that guy, and it looks the same nowadays, yet that in the 90s. I always ask GM Ortega, what is the key? Because he never go old. It's the same. And it's a person that has a lot of years. I remember in the 90s that person took his gi off, his shirt, throw one punch, and when he stopped here, the splash, it was like he was hitting a board, and there's nothing there. The amount of energy that he has, it was, So the point is, if you go to your master and train under your master all the time until you die, that's okay and fine with you. But when you have too many influences that you can absorb, the amount of knowledge cannot be measured, cannot be measured by the time. Because it's this Japanese proverb that says, it is better one conversation with the right sensei than 30 classes with a bad one.
And
And I
then,
believe, okay,
and then
yeah.
again, like you're coming from Puerto Rico, right? And I
Yep.
think I really want to make that really clear to anyone watching or listening to this. Like Puerto Rico is violent as fuck. Like it's a dangerous place. So it's gotten better. It's gotten better.
In
But
certain ways.
but it's still violent as fuck, man. Like you can't have a fake martial art in Puerto Rico. It just won't happen. Like if you have some sort of McDojo thing happening where you're showing people how to fight and you're showing them fake techniques, they're not going to survive. They're just going to die. And then Puerto Ricans are just going to find the next thing that will help them survive that environment. And if anybody's listening or watching this, I know, because I'm Puerto Rican, how violent it is over there. Like, I was brought up in a culture of violence. I didn't live in Puerto Rico, but my dad just put that in my head. Like, hey, and then where I was born, it was like that. Like, I was born in a place where, like it or not, you're going to fight. You're going to fight someone in the first grade. And that's just how it is. That's just life. And I don't think enough people that watch YouTube or go on the internet understand that. Like they see fights as something that happens in a cage or something you watch in a boxing ring or something that's sanctioned. And then there's people that go on the internet and talk about how they're gonna fight on a street fight and they never really experience what it's like to fight
The
or have to
danger,
fight, right?
the danger, everything. I have seen people that says the trains in in a real sense, in a real world motion. But when you see the training, it's not realistic. First of all, you have to cover the psychological part from the attackant to the defender also, the awareness. There's a lot of concepts that you will have to know in order to defend yourself in the streets. And not only in the street, it's like I was telling one of my students, and I'm going to tell here, it's not only Puerto Rico that is bad. Everywhere in the world is getting real bad. We're living on a dark age. Like I said, pandemia. We got viruses. We got war coming. We got a lot of stuff. Pressure the society. It's times of tension. When people are tension, they're not the same. They don't have the same tolerance. So, other thing, you could be on your home and you could be in danger. A neighbor that doesn't like you and wants to stab you by the back. Uh, a person that goes over there and could enter and rob you. The self-defense situation could be right now. Talking, somebody enters. You must be prepared in all those environments. Um, Self-defense and fighting are one thing, but prepare. For me, I got a difference on the view. from one of my roots, like I told you, and Nathaniel and others. They said one thing is defense, and you must never fight. I say defense, yang, fight, yin. They are yin and yang. If there is not a confrontation, if there is not a fight, you will never be able to defend. They could not go to pair. The moment that your self-defense fail, you go on to fighting, and everybody knows that. What is for me bad is your self-defense fell because a fly came in the eye in the fight, or you don't see a movement coming, he hits you, and you go to the fighting. You must readjust to go on again to the self-defense, because when you go to the fighting, you're going to his game, but you cannot forget the fighting. Defense and fighting are part of a cycle. Everything in life is balance. It cannot exist the defense if the fighting is not existent. It's ridiculous.
Yeah.
Another topic.
I'm gonna pause you real quick because I have to do a quick in 3, 2, 1. Yeah, man, it's definitely about balance, right? So I'm gonna rewind a little bit back to when you were a child and that 18-year-old, you were 12, he put a knife to your throat, and how from that point, how did you end up getting into Kajukenbo?
My father just took me to the right place, like I told. I believe there is a Japanese term called mushushio. Mushushio is, in my understanding of way to see it, it's a destined road, a destined that you have to, a path, but it's right there. He just threw me to the right spot, you know. Why? Talking about Grandmaster Patiño, she was hard enough to make you stronger, but with the love of a mother. I remember everybody called her mom in those days. I still call, when I call her, tell her mom. You know, the sensibility that she has when you have something. It changed us through love and through pain also, because she was really, really strong. You know, everybody has to align correctly. One move, everybody to the floor, roll over, roll over, roll over, roll over, get up. I love you, but you do the things back. It was really, and even after I went out of the dojo, she keep going, and every time that we meet, the love, you can feel it in distances. Um, and it was the right place. I grew up over there. I get better on the technique, on my basics. I learned a lot. Actually, today I use a lot of stuff that I learned in the 90s. I never forget the art, the philosophy, the stuff, you know. There were great times, you know, and I guess my father doesn't give me an option, but he took the best option for me. Because when we move on the memories, my best memory life were the camps that we have, the Bushidos, with all those masters, with all my partners, with all the person. Those were the, in those times, how I could tell you, I I passed too many things on my childhood. It was very difficult. Not only grew up on the place that I grew up. Uh, when I am on almost my mid school, intermediate school, my mother gets sick from cancer, and it was very shocking moment of my life because that in her case it was an year and a half or 2 years and she just died. And not only died, she died on my arms, on my house. So that particular moment, it was really hard for me because I get frustrated. I start looking up and say, God, why you do that?
How
I
how
pray.
how old were you?
I was 13, 14 years when she died on 14 years when she died on my arms. And I got three brothers, and in that time one was 7 years old, and the other was like 3 or 2 years old. It was a baby, and I remember things get hard because in that particular moment, my life changed 360 like 600 times. Why? Because it's hard for a person to see her mother dies on his arms, and not only that, you're not prepared.
Well,
You're
life,
just
like
you're a child.
yeah. Well, not even just a child. Like my dad died of cancer when I was 25, and
I'm sorry to hear that.
no, I mean, I'm sorry to hear about your mother, man. That was way younger. Well, anything you find out when someone who's really close to you dies is that this right here, we're lucky, man. We're lucky. Life is not guaranteed. We're
It's
not
not
guaranteed.
guaranteed
No,
exactly.
life is not guaranteed. I think too many people go through life thinking that I'm going to live till 80, 90.
Exactly. Too much planning. Too much planning.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Your time, you don't know. Like, if you are still alive right now, you're just lucky.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So talking about what happened those days, I lose my north. Why? It was hard. Instead, I have to help my father to deal with the kids too. He was working. I can cook, do the things with the guys. An auntie helped me a little also too, and it was hard. It was hard stuff. Then pass out all of things. I really get mad. I was losing north, like I was telling you. I decided at the age of 16, I went to my house, uh, my father's house, and with this guy, and I said, "Hey, you have to sign here. I'm gonna go to the army." And he said, "You're crazy. You're about 16. Yeah, I'm gonna get high school now. I want to leave and continue my life." Well, I took that decision because uh, I want to disappear from Puerto Rico. And when I came back, uh, I came back. Things were a little hard. Where was I going? I get a medical discharge for my knee, and I could reassign if I wanted. I didn't do it. So what I do is start studying. When I came here, I just get a rent, start studying, start working. I start working. I met this beautiful girl from another town, San
I
Sebastian.
don't want to stop you. I don't want to stop you. But something I want to clarify to my listeners real quick is when you join the Army, you join the U.S. Army, right? A lot of people forget. I'm going to take quick time. Hold on a second. In 3, 2, 1. A lot of people forget that Puerto Rico is still a U.S. territory. When you think about joining the army, you join the U.S. Army, right?
Yeah. I was actually National Guard.
National Guard, but still, it's the U.S. National Guard.
Yes.
And then you served your time. You fought for a country that is technically not yours. I mean, no offense. We're Puerto Ricans, but we both understand how the political
For me, no, it wasn't patriotism. It wasn't nothing of that. It was a way to escape my surroundings because I couldn't deal with it. You know, I couldn't deal with it. I lose my north, and I said, I stay here. It's going to happen three things. I'm going to join a gang because I wasn't walking too straight in those days. Even the people in my family doesn't know it because I knew how to do things, but I wasn't walking straight those days. I'm going to end cut up. I'm going to end dead, or something worse could happen. I was having hard feelings to my father in those days, also because I was blaming he for the death of my mother, and joining another person, another relation so fast after she dies, and those person also, uh, I'm gonna be honest. Here, I'm gonna be honest. It was so bad, that person that one time tried to rape me. So imagine my situation under those elements. I just want to go. And then what I do was that I remember I took the app, I took everything, and I signed up in the other part of the island. I could sign in Aguadilla, but I go to Fort Allen, which is in Juana Diaz, just to stay away from my past, my all my surroundings, and try to get the north again. So
you're just trying to get away from all the bullshit.
exactly, I was looking for an escape, for a place that I could grow up and to find myself. Because actually, I was almost grew up in a Christian world. My father, I remember he got to the church, and my mother also. And by the time that my mother dies, we regular go to the church, and we were. But I doesn't feel in those times the love of God. I don't feel nothing that. I just want to go my surroundings and start brand new. So when I came back, making the story short long, I go to Rincon and start living in Rincon and working in Rincon. In Rincon, I guess I was starting to study also in the Interamericana University in Aguadilla. And over there, I find this beautiful girl that I fall in love. After I came back, I go to the dojo and to Ortega's dojo and said, I'm back. I want to study. And those times, Ortega was a little rough, and she said, I don't care. I don't care if you join. You left. And I said, you know what I left? I told you, yeah, but you took the decision. It's your problem. I don't want you here. Okay, I said. Start talking to him and stuff, and it was the same answer always. So one day, my girlfriend, that lady that I told you, we started a relationship. Introduced me. One of my masters also. Now he's a Kyoshi Harrison Torres from Torres Karate Association. And I started practicing karate with him. He said, "Oh, you're good." Yeah, I told him, "Yes, I got a background." I started Kajukenbo with this person. Everybody in the island knows each other, and we start training under him, and it's like competing. We actually could go uh, to fighting in cage. Also, at that time, I remember it was Pride Association. I don't know if that exists. Uh, so but it was more bloody than now. I remember one of my fights was really bloody.
So
And
going into it real quick, you were saying that it was under the Pride Association. So for any listeners listening, he's talking about the MMA rules. They're talking about
exactly,
pride
yes,
fighting rules, which means pretty much anything except for eye gouging and fish hooking is not allowed. But you can still stomp, and you can still stomp an opponent.
no, in those days you could go breaking, you could go anywhere. In those days, we're talking late '90s,
Yeah, if the person hits the ground,
two
you can hit
thousands.
them in the head. Stomping is allowed.
Yeah,
That's a big differentiation between UFC rules
exactly,
nowadays
yes.
and MMA rules back then. So you were competing in Pride rules in Puerto Rico.
Yeah, yeah, and I remember fighting also in tournaments from another martial artist because Harrison, he always liked to support everybody. So we went a lot of tournaments too, and grow up a little in the karate world. Actually, I have to say that I wasn't not sure. I didn't understand what he 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 was giving me at the moment. Later on, when we grew up, he said, "Hey, he gave me this, he gave me the other, give me the other, and the other." He's a good teacher. I still in his organization talk to him sometimes. Sometimes when he came last time he came here to my home and visit me. It was really good experience because it was allowed to see the kanji of karate, a little bit of it, but also see the competitive world and also see a more hard competitive world talking about pride. So the experience was really good. I was a couple of years with him. Then what happens is relationship breaks. I move again to Rincon, and I kept a little distance from that. And then in that time, uh, I decided to emphasize more on Kajukenbo and Jiu-Jitsu a little because when we were in the high school, we went to this place in road number two, and a while it was like a little underground jiu-jitsu dojo, like I said, and I remember those times. So I started practicing more Kajukenbo and more jiu-jitsu with a couple of guys that I still in touch from that dojo. And what happened is that later on the life, I moved again because I lost the work and get a period of low income, really low income, and I was surviving, but I was really still upset with my father, and I don't want to go and ask him help. So what I do was survive, move and move and move and move until I get established again. And in those times, I met what is now my wife. So I started living here. And on front, there was a person that I knew from my childhood, from the church of my fathers, that trains there. And I trained, but I trained alone by those times. Keep training what I have to not losing it and everything. And he started inviting me. Hey, And I always say, "Now, what you got, Kajukenbo? I'm really tired, fucking tired from the Kajukenbo. I don't want to know about Kajukenbo." That was my, yeah, because I lost some faith on Kajukenbo through certain things that were happening in Johannes in the island. So I know everybody. I could share with everybody in those times, but I don't affiliate to nobody. So, anyways, he says to me, "Ah, I got different styles, not only Kajukenbo. Me too. I got a karate. I'm a second down in karate, and I got jujitsu. So what? Everybody does that. That's cross training. No, I got ninjutsu. I got a type of weird kempo. Anyway, he mentioned ninjutsu, and I said, throwing stars. Woo, cool. You throw bombs? Cool for you. But what it makes me, it was that he has a small group, and sometimes the group wasn't over there, and I hear the sound back like boom, 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 boom. And one day, for those who know me, I'm a cigar smoker. We're not perfect. I was smoking a cigar on my balcony with a cup of coffee, and I look. I don't know why I heard the sandbag sand hitting, and I looked the clock and said, "Let's see what what how much he can continue that way." I smoked my cigar, enter there, and boom, boom. After 3 hours, he finished, and I said, "This dude is weird. He trains. He trains hard." Anyway, to make the term the history short, um, he asked me again, and I see I'm gonna go down and see one of your classes, and see one of down of your classes was I was 9 years with him, and still communicated with him, and still learning from him. Sometimes I make questioning. Um, and that moment is that I grew up a lot because he had a mixed vision from things. And the last time that I was with a Kajukenbo master per se, it was only Kajukenbo. It was so I see interesting because in that type of moment I start to see some things that other master have given me and enlighten, understand it. Then, so that particular moment in my life is when I become a master. When I grew up a little they reckon me as a master, and like I said, my torch was off. He lined it again, and I started seeing the ninjutsu and the Kajukenbo, and his ninjutsu was weird too because he wasn't putting emphasis on the stars, the shit that you see in the television. Instead, he was looking for concepts and skills and how to. It prepares me. It gives me a better understanding of other works, like I told you. So in that time, that mentality, I I started, to see and understanding really the stuff because before that time, I just do whatever the teacher says or whatever I had here on my mind already, and I wasn't searching. I wasn't go deeper on the things. I was like everybody. Grab one, like crazy. What you do there? I kick that, no more. And with Sigun Carrero, which is still my teacher, I consider him my teacher. We have certain issues back in the days when I opened my school. He wasn't maybe ready to see me opening a school. Although those things go in the past, and we now can work together easily and talk very often. He's living in Hawaii now. He's not in the island also, which is something that it pains me because it was a loyal there and with a good guidance, certain way, and I he introduced me to I say grandmaster. He really is a Sigun, but everybody told him grandmaster to Haris Altares from Puntas and Rincon. Really old school guy that I love him as a grandfather. He has been as a grandfather to me uh, in his own way and teach me a lot of stuff too. Got the privilege, that he also teach me. He's the teacher from Sigon Benjamin Carrero and also my teacher because he wanted to do so in order to clear things when the things were a little messy. So my mushusho has been very, 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 very excited, very extreme. In that particular moment that I am training with Carrero, I got my second heart attack. And
Wait.
second, yes, and I guess my first heart attack was at 25 years old. I was still training with at Harrison Torres.
Mhm.
But my second was worse because I get really, really, really how's the word? Devil. I was weakening. I couldn't do two steps and just has to stop to breathe and recover. And in that particular moment of my life, I went depressed too, because I was always active. I always has been on sports, on martial arts, and not able to doing that. But in that particular time, I take it as a challenge. Start training, doing the how's the word therapies. I have to take in therapies in order of 6 or 9 months. I was able to be almost with the other partner from Dojo, almost in the same condition.
So let me backtrack a little bit. You had your first heart attack when you were 25.
Yes, because I got a condition on a valve of my heart that is from born, a born defect.
You have a genetic.
Then,
You have a genetic condition,
yeah, exactly.
a cardiac condition. So, kind of going back a little bit. When you got your black belt, who did you get your black belt under, and what was that test like?
The test, my first test, I do it with Sigun Carrero because when I was with Sigun Zoraida Patiño, I guess I get until brown belt, and I get depromoted also because I got a street fighting in near my home. It was a self-defense home situation, but in that moment, in that particular moment, Ortega said, "No, I don't care. It's a self-defense. You should avoid it." So they promoted me.
So just to clarify,
So to clarify, I get my black belt with Sigun Carrero.
Okay, so you had your brown belt, but you got depromoted.
That was with Ortega's and
because you
he had a policy that if you fight Ortega in those times, if you fight, he kick off you.
Mm-hmm.
To not kick off me, they depromoted me because I was in charge in that time to give classes also in Ortega's dojo.
Okay.
Not Ortega's dojo, Zoraida's dojo.
Yeah.
So, like,
That's what
for
I
all
know.
my listeners who are watching and listening to this that maybe never did any martial arts, um, it's pretty strict. If you get in a street fight, if you harm someone outside of the dojo, there are penalties that come with that. And in Senor Bonilla's case, that's what happened, right? He got in a street fight and he got depromoted because of it. But
Yeah, yeah.
no, whether it was justified or not, we won't get into that right now. But
Yeah, yeah.
you moved on, and now it's time for your black belt test. Can you explain to my listeners, because we're almost done with our hour,
Sure.
but I love to ask this question to all the Kajukenbo black belts, and just so people can understand, what was your Kajukenbo black belt test like? Uh, what
I
did
remember, I
and
remember, I remember going to Sigun's Ari Saltares' home uh, with Sigun Carrero, and I remember uh, there is a spot. It's called Raices on Rincon. Everybody knows it. It's in front of the lighthouse. Some trails in the woods, and I guess was 3 to 6 mile running, and then in the upper hills, kicking techniques, whatever involved the curriculum stuff. And in between those 6 mile runs, you do all that. When you finish all that running and doing the stuff, you go to his place. And I remember it was like 12 rounds of sparring, but it was 5 minutes each round.
then the sparring, what were the rules?
No rules. Saltares has no rules. Saltares, you just go there and he's gonna fight with you upon the level that he thinks that you are. And you better be ready because might see old, but when he hits you, he hits you. Actually, he broke a rib on that test
And
with
then
a Joko kick.
and then who did you have to fight for the 12 rounds?
Him, the other guy, and another guy, him, Carrero, and the other guys that he
What were
brings.
the rank of those guys?
But Carrero, in those times, I remember that he was a Sifu.
So they were all
And
black belts.
yeah, I guess so. Yeah.
So you had to
And
fight.
mostly of the rounds, you're gonna do it with Hari.
Okay. So just
Hari has a high stamina,
after
and he's
fighting,
gonna.
after running 6 miles and doing the self-defense in a 3 mile marker, you came back and then you had to fight essentially a bunch of black belts for 12 rounds at 5 minutes around.
And then he has a sandbag that like a pera weights do a circuit on there, and then you finish the test. It
After
was a hard test. Actually, here, if you see my photos, when I went without t-shirt, you're gonna see like a protuberance in the right side of the ribs. It was a flotating rib that he just broke with a back kick or a jog. I don't remember because I didn't see it. Sometimes he spins and you don't see what he's doing. Yeah, and, he's retired. He what only he do is train one maybe in the morning, maybe in the midday, maybe. So imagine how strong that he could hit you. You know, but I'm masochist, and I like that type of training because I think life is once, and when you go and you really need the self defense, uh, you're not gonna say to the person, "Hey, stop! I'm without air. Give me a break." You know, And one particular thing that I do tell my students is, don't fucking think that you can move a leg over here to kick his face if you never practice that. The thing that you never practice is not gonna pass there. You cannot do, you cannot make the body do something that he is not used to it. And people think the 2 hours in 2 times in a day, in a week, is enough. Then you go, I'm technical, man. I don't do exercises. Fine for you. Fine for you. I run 6 miles. And when I have to move really, really with all my movement and my fast, my velocity, sorry, politics are passing here.
Yeah. Hey, Puerto Rico. Hey, for anyone listening, that is Puerto Rico. Okay, you need to understand that is Puerto Rico. That is gonna happen.
Yeah.
If you
Yeah.
live in Puerto Rico, that is so Puerto Rican. I'm not even gonna edit that out because they know. They need to know what Puerto Rico
Yeah.
is all about. You just go by
Music,
blast
music.
reggaeton,
Yes.
and that is totally okay.
I was saying, even I got a scientific perspective sometimes. I like to measure my time training, my rest trainings, my repetition on the stuff. I measure everything to see where I have to do. Last time I jogged 6 miles, and it was a pretty good time for a person that smokes cigars, like I tell you, and from others that doesn't smoke. And I went with a student and start making spotting, and I said, okay, I'm gonna measure my speed and how I react. If I'm using my speed, you could get out of breathe at 30, 40 seconds after a couple of and then get the second air and nothing's happened. And what is the point here? The point is here, persons that trains 7 times more than you do cannot do certain things. What makes you believe that without training you could do it? It's stupid. And it's easily, we go to the history, we go to this famous fight from Bruce Lee with the monk. The persons over there says that Bruce Lee in 40 seconds was hyperventilating. Why? Because the movements that he used require certain amount of energy, certain amounts of vitamins, certain amounts of air in the lungs and in the blood, so he could his body could be able to do it. It is possible to do it, but you gotta train really hard. It's gonna happen to everybody. And I like to try these teams because I'm trying to wake up people to live in reality. If you train from reality, you should not be only training the curriculum. You should not be only training your self-defense and the technical parts. You should be working your body also.
Yeah. No, like
When you go to the kanjis, karate use endurance training for the areas that they are gonna use to hit. They refer as weapons because they are weapons. All right. If you strengthen your muscles, your stuff, you could hit it. Here is a Phoenix punch. You know what's Phoenix punch? I'm hitting hard, but I trained my body to become a weapon, as my master told me. I look for the stuff, and I look deeper, deeper. Why? That punch doesn't work. I told you that work right now.
Yeah.
And I have hearing people that said this position, we are teaching it because it's part of the curriculum and doesn't work. You don't know no shit then. That's there for a reason.
And what you're talking about, you talk about running 6 miles, 3 miles a day.
No, no, you don't have to do that way also.
But when you talk
I don't have the time go daily.
yeah.
But when you have the time, train strong. Train until you are drained of out of energy. Because that feeling is the feeling that you're gonna see in a fight because the stress levels.
Yeah. And like you were saying earlier, like some people train a lot of techniques, but they don't realize that like the techniques, and this is something that Stephen Kesting mentioned. The techniques are like the warhead, but your body is the rocket, right?
Exactly.
You have to train the rocket. Your techniques are only as strong as you can be, and you have to make yourself stronger to make that happen. So like you're kind of going into that deeper sense of it's not so much, yes, the techniques will work. The Phoenix Punch can work. Like a lot of people feel that the Phoenix Punch is a technique that doesn't work. It works just fine. But if you don't practice that technique, and if you're only depending on the Phoenix Punch to make it happen, then that's not going to work, right?
Another concept that I want to bring up also that I learned it in my times in the karate, and I'm still learning karate. I love karate. I love kung fu. I'm encouraging the people that I'm encouraging Kajukenbo world. With all due respect, I don't think I am better than nobody. I'm just saying my opinion to whoever want to listen it. Which is not obligated to listen me. Look into your roots, everybody said, right? Our roots said, Ka, you, can, bo. Start going every single syllable, every single part of the word. Go deeper there. And you're going to see stuff. Karate has a concept very, 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 very important. And it is that each of one of the basic movement, it is a technique. Karate people throw a punch, that's a technique. No, that's a punch, that's a technique. They use certain way to move, certain way to breathe, certain way to throw the energy, certain way. And when you train each of your movements in the way that they are a technique, then you will be better making a whole technique or whatever you're gonna do. Repetition. You got a muscle memory, everybody knows that. But you want to go on a fight and go like a thunder, and your hand doesn't see it. Did you practice that? Guess what's gonna happen? You're gonna pull your body in a certain motion that you are not prepared for it, that he's not gonna, and you're gonna get injured in a fight by a punch that you throw yourself. You see? Repetition, waiting exercises, endurance training. You see those Japanese hitting something. Look for it. If they are doing it, it must be a way that your doesn't damage your muscles, bones, and some science is behind of it. If you don't understand that, look for it and start working it. If you don't endurance, you don't have weapons. You don't have weapons. If you cannot hit a piece of wood, how you think you can hit this part or an elbow? If they put an elbow, people have put an elbow here, and I just keep continuing to. I do my work, and when I do cannot work, I'm looking, I'm reading books. Reading is important in martial arts. I told my students, read this book, read that one. If you read it correctly, you will understand what is written and absorb it. It's like for example, one of my favorite books is the Tao from the Kajukenbo, the first one. The one was written by Bruce Lee itself. And it's funny because the first time that I read it, I don't understand it. Really? I get it a second time, don't understand it because I'm a freak. I don't understand. I read, fucking again. Actually, I'm reading it again. I still decipher certain parts. What I do then, I focus on the footwork and start reading the footwork, start practicing by myself. Shut up, here, close doors. Next time I know, 6 months later, they invite me from a Kajukenbo seminar. Oh, let's go there. I gotta test what if I'm learning correctly. For my surprise, they put me to the footwork and said, "You are a Kajukenbo." No, I'm Kajukenbo. Kajukenbo. And there's no possible way that you can follow my best student in his rhythm without never doing this. No, I do it. Where you learning? Reading this book. He looked like me like he never believed me. Never believed me. And the dude was really good, was good better than me because if he wanted he could go more fast than I, but I could follow him very closely and nobody could in the room. And he said, continue reading then. You could absorb. That's one when I read that book, I saw something that Bruce Lee was onto science. You could see concepts of gravity concepts there. You could see physics explained by the word of Bruce Lee in his movements. But it's physics. If you go to the physics class, I'm a nerd in that part. I like sciences and humanities and politics. I love those things. So if you look the way that he is applying science, basic and intermediate physics, the way he throw the punch, the alignment, the micro and macro movements, those are science. Torsion. You go torsion, and you could look at it's in the book torsion. When you go Google torsion, you're gonna see science stuff.
Not only that, but he actually broke it down to an equation. There was an equation he actually put out there. I used to actually look at that thing and try to calculate how strong my punch can be off the equations he put. But if you want to nerd out, definitely.
And that point, I read this book. I gotta go do science again, and I apply it that way. Miguel could told you, point A, point B, mass plus this velocity, and it works. It works. I can prove it to anyone. It works.
So,
and Master Bruce, do it. You can do it too.
So here's my final question. If someone who's listening to this that's never done martial arts, they just listen to your story for the first time, and they're wondering, hey, I want to get into martial arts. They listened to our conversation and they loved it. They want to do martial arts. What would you recommend to them for a place to start training? What are the kind of things that you would say you should look for in a place to start training?
I will say that you have to be careful, and why? It depends on what the person wants. But if it's my advice is go to a place that teach you not only fighting, teach you the philosophy, teach you the good old ways. That it's not only defense and fighting. It's much more. Go to a place that teach you discipline and everything what you look for. Make the research. And actually, I always said try to go to karate, to jiu-jitsu, or to judo, because it's a fundamental. There are fundamentals in their basic. So when you want to switch off to another, you will be able to do it. But you got a good fundamentals to switch. Because people jump and jump and jump and jump and jump and jump without knowing enough from every system. No, go to karate, go to kung fu, some that has philosophy, because the philosophy is what marks the martial artist. You go to a boxing place, they teach you fight, but they don't care if you fight outside. They don't care if you get killed because you use drugs. They don't care, they don't care. They just want to have a fighter. I want to have a good human being first in order to teach him how to defend. And that's my advice. Look anywhere that teach you philosophy and good manners, and then the fighting stuff. That's my advice.
Well, you heard it here, man. Everyone listening, that's what's up. Like, that's what his advice is. Find the philosophy. It's coming from someone that came from a place that is very dangerous. Find a philosophy, find a place that you can trust. All right. Hey, man, I really want to appreciate you and thank you very much for coming on the show and sharing your story with us.
Thank you. Thank you a lot.
Stay for the wrap up. And that's it. That's a wrap, everyone. Thank you very much. I hope you tolerate my pajamas. It was like the middle of the night while I recorded all this. Please subscribe to the show if you like what you heard. If you want to be on the show, if you are a Kajukenbo practitioner and you want to share your story, just send me a message on Facebook, here on YouTube, wherever you found this, and I'll be more than happy to share your story with the rest of the world. Thank you very much, and please subscribe. I'll catch you all later. Peace.